Welcome to the pre-application information session for the fiscal year 2019 Legal Assistance for Victims Grant Program, also referred to as LAV program. The Office on Violence Against Women, also referred to as OVW, is convening this pre-application session to go over the FY 2019 solicitation for the LAV program. The purpose of this session is to provide information regarding the LAV solicitation. We will highlight a few key points in the solicitation. However, it is not the intent, nor is there sufficient time to go over every aspect of the solicitation. All applicants are responsible for reading the FY 2019 LAV solicitation and the OVW solicitation companion guide and ensuring that a complete application is submitted. LAV program staff cannot provide any feedback to applicants about the quality of an applicant's proposal or provide any information outside of what is presented in the solicitation. However, LAV program staff will be available throughout the period that the solicitation is open to respond to any questions about application requirements. Please feel free to send questions about the LAV solicitation to the LAV program email box at ovw.lav@usdoj.gov or call the main line at 202-307-6026. It would be helpful to have the LAV solicitation in front of you for the point of reference during this information session. Eligibility is mentioned on the cover of the solicitation as well as on pages 4 through 6. Eligible applicants include private nonprofit entities, publicly funded organizations not acting in a governmental capacity, such as law schools, territorial organizations, Indian tribal governments, including Indian Tribal Consortia and Indian Tribal Organizations. Both new and continuation applications are being accepted. Grantees that received LAV funding for 36 months in FY 2017 and 2018 are not eligible to apply. Also on the cover of the solicitation, please note that applicants are due by 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time on Thursday, January 31st, 2019. Please refer to pages 19 through 23 of the solicitation for more information on submission and deadlines. Please note that OVW will not accept late applications, so applicants are strongly encouraged to adhere to the dates listed on page 20 of the solicitation. OVW anticipates notifying all applicants of funding debt decisions by October 1st, 2019. You will also note on the cover of the solicitation that you must register by January 17th, 2019. Registration includes several steps: obtaining a DUNS number, ensuring that you register with the SAM system, and registering on grants.gov. Every applicant must obtain a Data Universal Number System, DUNS, number and register online with System for Award Management, SAM, well before the grant deadline. There is a reason that we set a deadline of January 17th, as the process to register for the DUNS number in SAM can be lengthy. If you do not have a DUNS number and or are not current in SAM system, you should begin this process as soon as possible. The registration process is not one that can be completed quickly. It can take days, and you should begin the process as soon as possible. Every year, we have a handful of applicants that did not make the deadline because they were delinquent with their SAM and or grants.gov registration. If you are considering applying, a letter of intent should be submitted by OVW by January 17th, 2019. A letter of intent is not mandatory. However, they are very helpful to us internally in attempting to identify the potential volume of applicants that we can expect and plan accordingly for the peer review process. Page II of the solicitation includes a link to a sample of this letter. LAV applicants will be submitted through grants.gov. If you have questions specific about the registration or submission process through grants.gov, please contact grants.gov customer support at 1-800-518-4726. This phone number can also be found on page II of the solicitation and on the grants.gov website. Grants.gov customer service is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with the exception of federal holidays. Page 1 of the solicitation provides background on the history and goal for the LAV program. The LAV grant program was created to provide victims access to appropriately trained legal representation designed to meet the broad spectrum of legal services legal issues survivors encounter. Although protection orders play an important role in victim safety, representation in emergency and non emergency protection order hearings does not address the breadth of legal needs of survivors of sexual assault, domestic violence, dating violence, and stalking. The LAV grant program supports the provision of holistic legal services. For example, survivors may also need legal assistance with other legal matters relating to or arising out of the abuse or violence, including family matters such as divorce, child custody or child support, immigration, administrative agency proceedings, housing, and assistance related to human trafficking as described herein. Any services funded under the LAV grant program must be linked to legal assistance. Examples of activities beyond direct legal services that may be supported with LAV funds include advocacy, as long as the advocate is providing services related to the legal services, for example, safety planning, court accompaniment, preparation for court appearances, and assistance with obtaining resources such as housing, employment, and childcare. Translation services, if related to legal services. Childcare directly related to legal services, for example, childcare to enable the victim to meet with his or her attorney or to go to court, and transportation related to legal services, for example, travel to meet the lawyer or to go to court. Please note that LAV grant funds may not be used to provide criminal defense services. Funds under this program must be used for one or more of the following purposes listed in this slide. The FY 2019 LAV grant program has three purpose areas. You will find this information on pages 1 through 2 of the solicitation. Please review the purpose areas carefully, as project activities funded through the LAV grant program must fall under one or more of these purpose areas. You will note that purpose area number 3 states not more than 10% of the funds awarded may be used for this purpose, a pro bono legal assistance. This requirement applies to the entire amount of LAV funding appropriated for the year. This is something that OEW monitors internally. Applicants are not required to limit their proposals to just 10% pro bono legal assistance. Information regarding the three OVW priority areas under this program can be found on page 2 of the solicitation. In FY 2019, OVW is interested in supporting the priority areas identified in this slide. Applications proposing activities in the following areas will be given special consideration. OVW does not fund activities that jeopardize victim safety, deter or prevent physical or emotional healing for victims, or allowing offenders to escape responsibility for their actions. Please refer to the OVW Solicitation Companion Guide for additional details. Please note, applications that propose any activities that compromise victim safety and recovery or undermine offender accountability may receive a deduction in points during the review process or may be eliminated from consideration entirely. The LEV program has specific out-of-scope activities that will not be supported by this program. We have highlighted a few of these activities in this slide, but a complete list of those activities can be found on pages 2 through 3 of the solicitation. It is important to review this list thoroughly, as applications that propose activities deemed to be substantially out of scope may receive a deduction in points during the review process or may be eliminated from consideration. Section B of the solicitation provides details on the federal award information. All awards are subject to the availability of appropriated funds and any modifications or additional requirements that may be imposed by law. There is no guarantee that funds will be available in the future. However, OVW may elect to make awards in the future fiscal year for applications submitted under the solicitation but not selected for FY 2019 funding, depending on the merits of the applications and the availability of funds. The grant award period is for 36 months, generally beginning on October 1, 2019. Award amounts will vary. This program typically makes awards in the range of $600,000 to $800,000. OVW estimates that it will make up to 54 awards for an estimated $34 million. New and continuation LAV grant program applications that are proposing to provide legal services primarily to victims of domestic violence or to provide less than 80% of the project's legal services to victims of sexual assault may request up to $600,000 for the entire 36-month project period. Please note, for FY 2019, new and continuation LAB grant program applications that are submitted by sexual assault victim service providers that are proposing to provide 80% or more of the project's legal services to victims of sexual assault beyond intimate partner sexual assault may request up to $800,000 for the entire 36-month project period. In order to be eligible for this amount, the lead applicant must be a sexual assault victim service provider. All awards will be made as grants. Section C of the solicitation provides additional details on eligibility. Please refer to pages 4 through 7 on program eligibility requirements. The solicitation provides the definitions of eligible entities in the footnote section. This slide highlights the other program eligibility requirements, such as delivery of legal assistance certification and required partnerships. If you have additional questions about your eligibility, please review this section carefully as it provides extensive details. In FY 2019, there is a change in who can apply for $800,000. In order to be eligible to receive $800,000 to provide 80% or more legal services to victims of sexual assault beyond intimate partner sexual assault, the lead applicant must be a sexual assault victim service provider. The definition of sexual assault victim service provider can be found on page 6 of the solicitation. These applicants should articulate the specific legal needs of sexual assault survivors within their communities and how project activities will meet those needs. Applications should also reflect the applicant's specialized training and experience in legal matters specific to non-intimate partner sexual assault. Those applying to focus on sexual assault should demonstrate a commitment to addressing non-intimate partner sexual assault and should clearly show that the applicant has the capacity to address the priority effectively. Applicants who state an intent to address sexual assault without a clear demonstration of commitment, capacity, and/or expertise to provide sexual assault legal services beyond intimate partner sexual assault will not be considered. Applicants can apply to serve individuals who are victims of sex trafficking or victims of both trafficking and domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, or stalking. The applicant should describe the current available legal services for this population and demonstrate its capacity to serve them. It is important to highlight this in the purpose of the application section. Section D of the solicitation on submission and information begins on page 7. The complete application package is available on grants.gov or at OVW website at www.justice.gov/OVW. Applicants wishing to request a paper copy of the application material should contact ovw.lav@usdoj.gov or call us at 202-307-6026. Applicants should anticipate that failure to submit an application that contains all of the specific elements will negatively affect the review of the application and may result in the application not being considered for funding. It is the responsibility of the applicant to ensure that a complete application is submitted by the deadline. OVW will not contact to ensure that a complete application is submitted by the deadline. OVW will not contact applicants for missing items. Applicants should refer to the chart on page 20 of the solicitation to ensure that all required steps and deadlines are met. Got extra documents? Well, applicants should not submit documents that were not specifically asked for in the solicitation. Providing information that was not requested, such as letters of support from other organizations in your community or service area, will not increase the likelihood that an application will be selected for funding. So when in doubt, leave it out. Please carefully review the formatting and technical requirements on page 8. Points may be deducted for applications that do not adhere to the formatting and technical requirements. Please read the entire list of requirements. Applications must include all of the required documents. 1. Project narrative. This section should provide the reader with the purpose of the application, what will be done, and whom the organization plans to implement this project. Please refer to pages 9 through 12 of the solicitation for complete details. 2. Budget detail worksheet and narrative. This section should provide the reader with the award period, and the amounts should display a clear link to the specific project, activities, and the proposed budget items. The budget should not contain items that are unsupported by the project narrative. A sample budget detail worksheet is available on the OVW website. A link is provided in the solicitation on pages 12. 3. Memorandum of Understanding or Statement of Expertise. Please carefully review the distinction between the two and identify which is required and which is optional for the applicant. Please note, there are additional questions in the project narrative and MOU Statement of Expertise if an application is addressing sexual assault, trafficking, or stalking. Applications that do not include all of the 3 required components will be considered substantially incomplete and will not be considered for funding. In addition to the application being scored on the 3 components, the summary data sheet and certification letter will also be scored. Although this section will not be scored, your application should include an abstract that does not exceed 2 pages double-spaced. This section should not be a summary of the past accomplishments. This section should not exceed 20 pages and must include the required 3 sections: purpose of application, what will be done, and who will implement the project. Note, in order to create a comprehensive coordinating community response to victims, applicants may include additional agencies in their multidisciplinary partnership, such as law enforcement, state, local, and federal prosecutors, substance abuse organizations, and mental health services. However, these partners are not required and cannot be compensated with grant funds. A budget and a budget narrative are required. The narrative can be a separate document or be included in the budget together. It must reflect 36 months of project activities and include funds to attend OVW-sponsored training and technical assistance in the amount of $10,000 for proposals from organizations located within the 48 contiguous states and $12,000 for organizations located within the territories, Hawaii or Alaska. Please note this amount is for the entire 36 months and not per year. Applicants may budget expenses in excess of the required amount if they are aware of relevant non-OVW sponsored conferences or training for which they would like permission to use grant funds to support staff and project partner attendance. The budget and the budget narrative will be reviewed separately from the proposed project narrative. The budget narrative must describe each line item requested in the budget and explain all costs included in the budget, including how the costs of goods and services are determined and how they will fulfill the objectives of the project. The next couple of slides, we're going to focus on aspects of your application that relate to the documents that our financial team, the Grants Financial Management Division, GFMD, reviews. More specifically, we will discuss some items that GFMD has identified from prior year applications that could help with expediting our review process. So for today, we're going to highlight certain aspects of the pre-award risk assessment and provide you a link to a detailed webinar on how to develop the budget that will be included in your application. The first things we will highlight are the items identified in the summary data sheet, which is completed by all applicants. Specifically, 2 items we would like to discuss are the single audit response and the IRS 3-step safe harbor procedure. OVW requests that all applicants provide a statement as to whether they have expended $750,000 or more in federal funds during their last fiscal year. If they have, then they indicate that and also specify the end date of their last fiscal year. However, GFMD is finding that applicants do not always include this information and leave it out whether or not they have met the threshold, or the end date of the last fiscal year is not included. Please ensure this question is answered in its entirety on the summary data sheet. So another item we like to highlight from the solicitation is specifically for nonprofit organizations. If you use the IRS three-step safe harbor procedure to determine your executive's compensation, you must reference the additional information section that provides the required disclosure letter. We would like to highlight that there are four parts of this disclosure letter that must be provided to OVW in order to comply with this requirement. The sample letter that outlines all four parts of the disclosure, so please be sure to follow the sample and provide a response to each of the four pieces. The next item we would like to discuss are the financial accounting practices which assist GFMD during their pre-award risk assessment review for all applications. Each applicant must prepare a response to all 10 questions, and each question must have multiple parts. We've noticed from prior years that applicants do not always fully answer all parts of the questions, which in turn requires GFMD to reach out to the applicants, which may delay recommendations. Some of the most common issues that we've encountered have been, for example, question number 2, where the applicant indicates that they do indeed have internal policies, but they do not provide a brief list of topics covered in the policies and procedures. Another example of incomplete responses include question number 3, where the applicant does not provide a brief summary of the organization's process for tracking expenditures, and more specifically, whether or not it tracks budgeted versus actual expenditures. So these are just a few examples, but basically, please make sure you read each piece of each question and provide a full comprehensive response. This next slide will quickly highlight some of the resources that are available that should be used as you're creating the budget to be submitted with an application. Over the last year, GFMD has worked to develop a detailed webinar presentation on how to assist applicants in developing a budget to be submitted with their OVW application. They want to help reduce any challenges you may face with the budget and make it clear that what they look for when they review your budget. This webinar provides some insight as to what OVW financial staff considers during their review. Use the following link, www.justice.gov/OVW/resources applicants. The webinar can be found under the budget information section on this page. Next up is uniform guidance, which can be found on 2 CFR 200. And another resource is the DOJ Financial Guide, as well as the program-specific solicitation. If you need assistance finding these resources, please contact the GFMD Help Desk. We know this can be a lot of information to process, so if you have any questions about the GFMD information discussed, please feel free to contact GFMD Help Desk at 1-888-514-8556 or by email at ovw.gfmd@usdoj.gov. Slide 4 includes memorandum of understanding versus statement of expertise. The MOU section can be found beginning on page 13 through 14 of the solicitation. For the purposes of the solicitation, the MOU is a document containing the terms of the partnership and the roles and responsibilities between two or more parties. The MOU must be a single document and must be signed and dated by the authorized representative of each proposed partner organizations during the development of the application. A sexual assault and or domestic violence victim service provider must be involved in the development and implementation of the project. If the lead applicant is an organization with a primary mission to provide services to victims of crime generally, a community action agency, a community-based improvement corporation, a law school, or a legal services program, then the lead applicant must partner with a sexual assault and or domestic violence service provider. Please review the sexual assault, trafficking, and stalking priority areas requirements for the MOU on page 14 of the solicitation. Lead applicants that are nonprofit, non-governmental, or tribal victim service providers or governmental rape crisis centers that, as their primary mission, provide services to sexual assault, domestic violence, dating violence, and or stalking Victims may submit a statement of expertise in lieu of the MOU if they demonstrate that they provide legal representation for victims of sexual assault, domestic violence, dating violence, and/or stalking. If you're a victim service provider who will be contracting with individual attorneys and not a legal service organization, then you can submit a statement of expertise, not an MOU, but you should demonstrate in the statement of expertise the experience of the attorneys that will be providing legal services. Please review the sexual assault, trafficking, and stalking priority area requirements, the statement of expertise on page 15 of solicitation. The statement of expertise section can be found on pages 14 through 15 of the solicitation. To be eligible for an award under the LAD grant program, applicants must certify in writing that they are in compliance with statutory requirements outlined in other program eligibility requirements section. This certification must be in the form of a letter on an agency letterhead and signed. Electronic or typed signatures do not satisfy this requirement, and dated by the authorizing official. The signed certification letter must be uploaded as a separate attachment in grants.gov. Pages 15 through 19 provide additional documents that will not be scored during the review process, but they should be included with your application. Failure to include any of the information may result in your application being removed from consideration from funding. Please review this section carefully. Again, applications are due by 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time on Thursday, January 31st, 2019. Applicants are strongly encouraged to begin the application submission process at least 48 hours, but no later than 24 hours before January 31st, 2019. As a reminder, all applicants must obtain a DUNS number, register online with the SAM system and grants.gov. Letters of intent are optional, but should be submitted no later than January 17, 2019. Please note, applicants should only submit one application per program. If an applicant submits multiple versions of an application, OVW will review the most recent version submitted. OVW offers several options for an applicant to provide advance notice of a delayed application. Applicants should thoroughly familiarize themselves with the requirements as outlined by OVW in the chart on pages 20 to 22. An applicant's request to submit an application after the deadline will be considered by OVW if all of the steps outlined in the solicitation are followed. Only in rare circumstances are extensions granted. Failure to begin the registration or application submission process in sufficient time is not an acceptable reason for a late application submission. OVW has a list of funding restrictions that is provided on page 23 of the solicitation that will allow applicants to develop an application and budget consistent with program requirements. Restrictions include allowable cost, food and beverage cost, food and beverages costs for refreshments and meals, conference planning and expenditure limitations, and program assessment. Unallowable costs should not be included in the applicant's budget. OVW generally does not allow pre-award costs. Costs incurred prior to the start date for the award may not be charged to the project unless the recipient receives prior approval from OVW. Please see the DOJ Financial Guide for more information on pre-award costs. There is a link to the financial guide on page 24 of the solicitation. Please note there are other submission requirements on the bottom of page 24. Please review this section carefully to ensure your ability to submit your application on time. Eligible and qualifying applications will be subjected to a peer review and a programmatic review. Applications will be scored based on the degree to which the application responds to each section and addresses each element in this section. Furthermore, applications will be scored based upon the quality of the response and the level of detail provided. Each element must be addressed in the section in which it is requested. Points may be deducted if the applicant does not include the information in the appropriate section, even if it is included elsewhere within the application. Each section will be reviewed as a separate document and will be scored as such. Information regarding the review and selection process begins on page 25 of the solicitation. Successful applications will receive OVW award notifications electronically from the OJP Grants Management System, not grants.gov. This award notification will be sent to the individual listed as the authorized representative and the point of contact on the SF-424 for the application that was selected for funding and will include instructions on accepting the award. Recipients will be required to log in, accept any outstanding assurances and certifications on the award, designate financial points of contact, and review, sign, and accept the award. The award acceptance process involves physical signature of the award document in terms and conditions by the authorized representative and the scanning of the fully executed award documents to OVW. There are a number of administrative and national policy requirements listed on pages 27 through 28 of the solicitation. You should review these carefully. Please use the application checklist on page 28 of the solicitation. This checklist will help you ensure that all required documents are included in your application. Ensure that you included all required documents. Please make sure your point of contact POC listed in grants.gov is responsive to emails and alerts. Lastly, we have some tips that may improve your chances on becoming an LAV grant recipient. Please note that the following list is not a guarantee that you will be funded, but it is included as a guide to navigate you through the OVW application process. Please read the solicitation in its entirety. It is important to make sure you do not miss out on any important information by just skimming through the solicitation and just focusing on the How to Apply section. Read the application and contact LAV staff if you have any questions. Allow plenty of time to gather required information and submit well before the deadline. Although this is not required, more time will allow for any unforeseen obstacles, such as power outages and natural disaster. Attend to technical details. So, a missing and incorrect DUNS number or an expired SAM registration are some of the reasons an application may get rejected. Applications can also be rejected if files are saved inappropriately. For example, files with names that exceed the grants.gov 50-character limit or that include special characters. Please ensure you are following the requirements for grants.gov. If you have any technical questions, please reach out to grants.gov directly for troubleshooting or feedback. So headings can be a big deal to the reviewer. It is important to keep your audience in mind and make it easy for them to read and review your application. Use the heading and subheading titles that are in the solicitation. This will help the reviewer more easily follow the application. Keep your audience in mind. So please keep in mind that reviewers will use only the information contained in the application to assess the application. Be sure that the application and responses to the program requirements and expectations are complete and clearly written. Do not assume that reviewers are familiar with your organization's service area or barriers to legal needs in your community. Keep the reviewer in mind when writing the application. Organization, organization, organization. I cannot stress this enough. Many applications fail to receive a high score because the reviewers cannot follow the thought process of the applicants or because parts of the application do not fit together. Treat it like a puzzle. Let the pieces properly fall into place. So, what are the issues in your community that you're trying to address? Is it in line with the purpose area of OVW priority area? Make your points understandable. Provide accurate and honest information, including candid accounts of problems and realistic plans to address them. If any required information or data is omitted, explain why. Your budget should also reflect back to the proposed activities. So, print out your application before submitting it to ensure appropriate formatting and adherence to page limit requirements. Check to ensure that you included all attachments before submitting the application. Also, number your pages in your application. This will help the reviewer track and ensure you are following solicitation formatting and instructions. Don't risk points for something as simple as formatting. Be sure to include all the necessary attachments and label them appropriately when uploading them into the system. Cross-check and double-check. Points may be taken off for those items missing that are required. Use acronyms judiciously, if at all. Remember that the reviewers are not familiar with your community and will not be familiar with the acronyms that your organization and project partners may use. If your name and contact information is listed as the POC, point of contact, please monitor your inbox. There are times the system may reject your application and you will need to make sure that you are getting those alerts. Good luck! If you have any additional questions, please do not hesitate to contact our office.